thanks for your feedback.
Can I just also make you talk about comfort zone? You tend to get into a rut, and then it actually starts getting boring for you. So basically, what I do is I actually create not situations that are bad. I go and do something else in that. If I'm working for a company, I go and see what other opportunities are there for me to grow in and to see what I can do. And, just it's not monotonous work that we're doing. We're actually doing something very, very specialized. It's a science that we are doing. And that's the way I see it. I might be seeing engineering, but engineering is a science. You're always developing, you're always looking at new techniques that you can utilize. And you experiment also. That's the way I see it too. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that.
Chris, I think we need to go on to your presentation. Can you see this? See it on the screen?
Yes, I can see it on the screen. Thanks.
Okay, we can hear you, and thanks,
All right.
Adrian. Thanks, Chris, for your comments there. But we would like to now. I mean, we've got a lot of guys eagerly waiting for what Chris has to say about ECSA interviews. Over to you, Chris.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Johan. Thanks, Adrian, for your discussion. Okay. To everybody, my name is Chris Maynard. I'm a professional technician, technologist. I belong to IPET, Society of Asphalt Technology, and by SAICI, and I'm also ECSA assessor, moderator, and interviewer. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss the various interviews you can expect to encounter in your application. There are three possible interviews: the experiential interview, professional review, and your advisory interview. These three we'll discuss separately. Okay. Okay, assessment of your application. But before the interview, your application has been assessed by 4 independent assessors. Based on the assessment of the assessors, the moderator, which is usually 2, will assess will make recommendations based on the assessors and the applicant to attend either experiential interview or professional review. Now, I'll discuss now the difference. Now, we'll talk first about the experiential interview. Okay, the purpose of the experiential interview is to determine the applicant's competency in outcomes that was not clearly stated in the engineering report. Now, this assessment is always like a desktop study. It is what is written, the evidence that is given, and upon this, the assessors will decide, will make out and say, okay, outcome 1, 2, and 3 is not clearly stated. We need to do an experiential interview. This will be given to the assessor. Assessor will look at it. You will make the recommendation. Now, the rule is the applicant will be asked to give clarity for the outcomes as indicated in the correspondence you receive from ECSA. So if you've got to discuss outcome 1, 2, 3, and maybe 7, something like that is all what you prepare for. It's only in very rare cases the applicant will be asked to give clarity on other outcomes if the interviewer suspects the applicant did not write his or own report. It has happened. Then you can ask him on information.
So, Chris,
okay.
The ECSA sends you a letter saying that these are the outcomes that you need to talk about in the experiential interview. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. So if you've got 4 outcomes you have to discuss, you discuss those 4 outcomes and you prepare for those 4 outcomes. But we as interviewers, sometimes we pick up that the person did not write this report himself, or he's taken somebody else's report. Then we can ask him, for instance, outcome number 9 or 10, just to see as a check if we suspect that, but it's very, very rare in those cases. Okay, then professional review. Now, The applicant can be invited to attend a professional review on two areas: after attending the experiential interview, or if the moderator and the assessors recommended professional review without the experiential interview. So you've got two routes that you follow. You can do the experiential interview to clarify unclear outcomes, and then you can be recommended to go to professional review, or you go, the moderator and assessor have looked through at your engineering report and your other application documents, your training report, everything there, and they recommend it to go straight to professional review. The purpose of the professional review is to determine if the applicant is conducting him or herself at the level of a technologist in the respective field of competency. Now, the rule is the applicant will be questioned on all outcomes to determine how the level of competency is met. So there's 11 outcomes. You will be questioned on all 11 outcomes.
Now, do everybody go to the professional review, Chris?
No. You can also be an experiential interview when those few outcomes that you did not answer correctly, if your competency was not indicated, you can be deferred to go and reapply, or you can have also there in that time frame, you can also be put under, we call it, now I've lost the word now, that you can be put in 12 months. In abeyance. Abeyance, yes.
Yeah. Deferral.
Yeah, you can be put into abeyance there for 12 months. If we as interviewers see it's just a small bit of lacking, but the person will pick it up when he's gone on further 12 months. Okay. Now we're going to the third interview, which is called the advisory interview. The applicant requests an advisory interview upon being deferred from being registered at ECSA as a professional in their field of expertise. It can either happen after the experiential interview or after a professional review. The purpose is for the applicant to seek clarity on certain outcomes. Now, this is where the applicant talks to the interviewers, or it will most probably be, usually it happens is there's none of the interviewers that did the first interview with him are not there. We just advise the applicant. Now, the rule is there. The applicant receives correspondence from ECSA stating which outcomes were not met. But it's not just that those outcomes, the applicant can also ask about any other outcome too, if he wants to, if he or she wants to. Okay, we can go to the next slide, Johan. All right, now we're going to discuss the preparations for the various interviews. Each type of interview has its own preparation standards. Experiential interview, the applicant only prepares for the outcomes as stated in the correspondence received from ECSA, which is a letter. The interviewers will rarely ask about other outcomes. As I stated, there's only on one situation is where the interviewers suspect that the applicant did not write his own report. Professional review, the applicant is asked on all 11 outcomes. The applicant prepares a 15-minute presentation for his or her work based on his or her engineering report. This is very important. Please, we do get guys who come in and they do that presentation for on half an hour. That half an hour actually cuts your time for the interview. Please keep it to 15 minutes. It's the best time. You can go 1 or 2 minutes over, but please do not go it over. What we use this 15-minute presentation is also to see how you present yourself. Can you do presentation? How's your communication? That is one of the criteria that is there, that is required in that outcome. If you do it well, we don't ask about that at the. Okay, to do during the. Okay, to do for interviews. Now, the to-do list basically is prepare thoroughly for your interviews. It is very bad to go for an interview, like your job, and you have not prepared for it. Ensure your internet connection is effective and can accommodate the required bandwidth. If it doesn't, please state it and say, or it does not do well. We as interviewers, we will talk to you, but we will take our video off. We're not supposed to, but we will do that to help with the bandwidth. Ensure that you look presentable for the interview. Please do not come there with a dirty overall that you've just worked on one of your cars or did some do-it-yourself home building there. So ensure that your sound is audible in sending and receiving. Do a sound check with the ECSA to make sure that your sound is good, because that is very difficult to read. All right, make sure your camera projects a clear picture of yourself. Ensure the lighting is correct from the front and no sharp lights behind you. Otherwise, we do not see your face at all. Basically, it's there. Make sure that your system is up and functioning correctly at least 15 minutes before the interview starts. Look directly into the camera when asking questions. Okay. Don'ts at the interview. Do not be overconfident with the interview. Can everybody hear me still? Okay. Do not eat during the interview. And if you want to drink water, say, please, I just want to have a glass of water. That is fine. Do not argue with the interviewer, especially during the advisory interview. Another thing, do not try to belittle the interviewers. I've had this sometimes. Do not try to impose your authority on the interviewers. This does happen, and it is not very nice to have. Okay, summary of the types of interviews. I'm just going to give a brief. We have briefly discussed the 3 types of interviews that can take place. Experiential interview, acquiring further information from various outcomes. Professional review, question on all outcomes to determine your competency. Advisory interview, the applicant requires clarity on certain outcomes that have due to being deferred. Okay, acknowledgement is the presentation is based on the Engineering Council, ECSA documents, RO2, ST, PE, PT, PCE, PN. Competency standard for registration in professional categories as PE, PT, PCE, PN, revision 1, the 20th of August 2020, and RO3 PRO, processing of application for registration of candidates and professionals, and RO8 PT, guide to the competency standards for registration as a professional engineering technologist. Please, if some of you have gone through with this, realize now RO2, STPE, PT, PCE, PN is one of the most important documents when you are actually doing your assessment for your application. Then, the last one is to say thank you very much. And are there any questions?
Hi, Chris. It's Johan here.
Yes, Johan.
From the, if you go for the appraisal or the experiential appraisal, the first one, right, where there's certain outcomes that the reviewers are not sure about. At the end of that interview, can the reviewers say the person is deemed competent and issue the professional status, or must they still go to the professional interview?
Okay. You see what I've said there, the experiential interview is there on certain outcomes. Now, everybody has to go for the professional review because you cannot go and do the professional. It's a standard they've brought out. So if you pass your experiential interview, then you still have to go for the professional review, because then you have to be done, you discuss all outcomes. We want to see in the competency In the past, it was a lot of it was done on what you reported. There was very few interviews required. But then they found out there's a lot of people that fall between the cracks. They get their friends or they take their friends' documents and then they just jack it up so that they could get in. This is now a gate stop to see that we do get the correct people in our there. And it's the professional review and even the experiential review and the advisory. It is peers that are there. It's my colleagues, it's myself and my colleagues that are actually interviewing the person to see if they are competent to come into the industry as a professional and to be registered at ECSA.
Okay, great, thanks. And then a second question to that, and this is just a feeling, I don't know if I'm right, but it seems like the experiential appraisals are becoming more often than it did in the past. Is that assumption correct?
Yes and no. It depends on how the person has filled in the document. Because I find that the guys or the people, the applicants, rather say applicants, we don't put gender to the applicants. What they do is when they fill in their document, they think this document is a 2-hour document. Then you find out they do a lot of repetitive work. They do not identify the project that they're working on. They do not identify the correct outcomes that what is required. And they start generalizing and they start writing generic. That is not what we're looking for. That's why we have the experiential interviews. It is 50-50 that I've picked up in over the years that I've been doing it. This time now with this last year, we tend to get a bit more experiential, but then you also get a lot of professional reviews. So I don't know, but it looks fine. To me, it's still the same.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Joshua, please unmute yourself and ask your question. I see you've got a hand up.
Thanks. I just want to ask the 50-minute interview.
Chris, I am asking one question. After advisory meeting, after how many months he or she can apply again?
Well, there's no time frame on the advisory.
Thank you very much.
If the applicant feels happy and all his questions are answered and he understands where maybe he's made a mistake or how he handled it, then he can go and apply straight away. There's no time frame. So please, there's no time frame to say you have to wait another 6 months. And that if the applicant has done his assessment, as what Adrian has talked about and what I've said too, he's done a proper critical assessment and he says, I know where I made a mistake or not a mistake, was not understanding what was done. Now I understand it. And he does an application. I've had a person that had an interview and 3 months later he was accepted because he did straight after the advisory, he applied again.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Joshua?
Yeah, I just want to ask the 15-minute interview with the professional registration. Do you want us to basically correlate that outcomes that we've written in the report to the professional presentation, to the presentation itself, or you just really want an idea of what work we've been involved in? Sorry, man, it's a bit loud here. There's a lot of plant around me. You want an idea of what we were involved in throughout the projects that we've been, doing.
You can. It's for you to decide how you want to present, but it's advisable just to talk lightly. For instance, take one project and you discuss the outcomes that it is applicable on it. But keep it to 15 minutes. Don't try and stretch it, because what happens is we discuss the presentation, plus we discuss your engineering report. We require information also from that. So we want to see your competency level. Are you working at that level of competency there?
Okay, so it's not necessarily about the outcomes relating to that. It's just really more you want to get a feel of what I'm capable of.
Yes.
involved in. Okay.
Like if you, for instance, if I can come in there, like you've taken a project and you've discussed it in your engineering report, but your presentation can be your latest project. If you see it discuss most of your outcomes, you can discuss that. Basically, what it is to see why you want to become a professional, become a professional technologist. We want to see if you can present yourself. Would you be able to present to an audience? If you've done this quite regularly, it will be no problem that you will discuss it. You can use PowerPoint, but it's not necessary that you use PowerPoint. You can use a PDF slideshow also. So it's not stuck with one type of there. You know, because everybody's got the idea you have to have PowerPoint. You don't have to. You can use another media, but it must be able to be presented properly onto the screen that we can follow it. Does that answer your question, Joshua?
Yes. Yes. No. 100%. Thank you.
Okay.
Joshua, you can take your hand down. Any other questions? Please unmute yourself, put your hand up, unmute yourself and ask a question. Oh, and guys, there's 40 of you out there. Surely you must have questions.
There's one thing I've picked up also, especially when it comes to advisory. You know, when we do the advisory interview, the applicants start getting aggressive towards the interviewers from the start. Then it's not conducive to what you want to know. You know, you do not criticize the interviewers. You do not criticize the guys during your interview. You just ask your questions. And just one thing, please always remember, with the advisory interview, we cannot overturn the, what is written in ECSA's letter. The only way you can do it if you want to appeal. You can try and overturn. But remember, when you're going through that process, it's not just the 3 interviewers and the moderator or the 2 moderators at the end of there. You've got a big lot of guys. You've got your 4 assessors that go through your document. Then you've got 2 moderators. Then if you're going for advisory, you've got another 3 interviewers. Then you've got another 2 moderators. And then you go to your professional review, which is 3 interviewers and 2 moderators. So you can add up, it's a long process, and we try and to ensure that everything goes accordingly. That's why it's called also at the end, it's a peer review. Okay. Dr. Sina?
Thank you, Chris. One thing, Johan de Koker was asking me, what about academics? How they can register? So in my opinion, if academics, they are not involved with consultancy, it will be very difficult for them to meet 11 outcomes. Because my experience, 25 years in the industry, 6-7 years in academia, I can find out that academics must be involved in consultancy. Otherwise, they can't do it. Very difficult.
You know,
I answered your question.
I have a concept.
Can I just come in there? I just want to change the mindset of people who say they're academics. Yes, it looks like if it's very difficult, but yet you can do all those 11 outcomes. Because if you, for one outcome there is the social and the, you talk to your students, they tell you, nothing stops you to say, you know, social, environmental, you know about it. You say, my colleague, I've spoke to my colleague about that in environmental and the social, and they said this is how it's done, and I understand. That doesn't stop you. If you're looking at designing, and it doesn't matter what subject you are actually doing, teaching, you're actually designing. You're also looking at the problems. You're looking not just at the academic side, you look at the engineering problem, how it is to be solved. That you can put in there. So you don't need, it's advisable to have some consultancy, but you are still consulting with your students. You're still interacting with them. That's where I see it. That's the way I see it. And that is the way you work with it.
Chris, I have a concern here. When ECSA does accreditation at universities, they expect the academics to be registered. Now, not all academics have been in industry before they started in academia, and not all of them had been in places where they've been doing contracts and things like that. So if ECSA now expects you to be registered, then they must register you as an academic. And in the identification of engineering work, it is academics is specifically mentioned that they must also register. So if ECSA are making it difficult for academics to register on anything else than their academic work, then that is not fair, and it is not acceptable. So ECSA must decide whether they want.
If you do listen what I'm saying now. Hey, what I'm saying is, although they haven't had the experience on site and that, they still go. Sometimes they go to their students' sites to learn from there. If they just got the knowledge, although they haven't applied it, like for instance, if they know for a fact on site you have to have certain legislation and regulations you must comply with, if you discuss that to us as interviewers, we will not penalize you as an academic. Like outcome 1, 2, and 3 is designing and the outcomes and how to collect information. A lot of the academics are teaching the students to do this. Although they haven't got site experience, we don't ask for they say your training of experience report, your experience report. If you've written there, you're academic, but this is what I've been doing and I've been learning and teaching. That does count. So there are ways and means. The best person to talk to about, and this is the thing that we've discussed already, is to get hold of Jones Molasani there at TUT. He has discussed this also previously. He knows how to get around that. And this is the way I see it, is also project management. Academics are doing project management, not maybe on the scale of like in construction, but they've got the principles. And if they know the engineering principles, they can apply that too. Like they plan for their lectures, they plan for the dates, they talk to their students, they make sure the exams are done, they get their marks put in. This is things that what we do basically, and just apply, change your mindset and apply it to the engineering.
Unfortunately, a lot of the interviewers for registration for professional engineer require, especially in civil engineering, if you haven't had site experience and construction experience, sorry, you're out. And that's just not on. It is.
No, I don't do that.
Yeah,
I know the guys that work with me, we discuss this.
But as I said, a lot of the guys for professional engineer require that, and then they still require the academics to be registered. In any case, Joshua looks like he's got another question.
Joshua and Adrian. Okay, Joshua.
Okay, sorry, just to talk about something else, but on the ECSA registration forms, there is something called a commitment undertaking. A few of my friends or colleagues are working for construction companies. Their companies aren't registered with ECSA and they don't have a commitment undertaking. So we've had a conversation about now, is this now going to be a disadvantage to them when they applying for registration because the company doesn't have a commitment undertaking number, or what? Does it count for points or what?
No, I can tell you straight up no. What we're looking for is, say, What training did you receive? That's why your training report, your TER, must be done. There we look at that. It's not just one item we always look at. We look at your whole application, everything. So when you do your application, do not just write in from where you got your BTech. You write in from the day one where you started working, where you started assisting, level A, and how you progressed up to level E, where you work on your own. That's what we want to look at. That's what we want to see. That helps a lot. I don't care if it is 20 pages on the TER, but we want to see how you progressed and how did you come up to where you are now.
I see. Okay. Now that's
Okay.
great. And then
Okay, I think the next one is Adrian quickly, and then we'll go to the other guys. Adrian?
Hi, Chris. Just to say thank you for your presentation and nicely put across. I wanted to know, I was just thinking about it, how can we involve the referees in some way? It's just an idea maybe to think about or get your inputs, because I think on the one hand, you in an interview process, which is great, but how about if you had a referee, at least one of them involved in that interview, even if it was a witness, so that there's some form of accountability, and then to outwork it with the applicant. Perhaps there's some things that do come out of that interview process that needs work, and then you've got someone at least that was in that process. I don't know, I'm just thinking it through. What is ECSA's view on the referees and what their part in this process is? So just a thought on that one.
Okay.
I'll be interested to
All
know
right,
what you think.
This is my personal, I'm not representing ECSA, please. You guys must understand one thing. I mean, everybody here who's young, I do not represent ECSA. I do this as a volunteer for ECSA. So, but for referees, I would not like that at all, my personal opinion, because I've picked up a lot of times where referees have actually written badly to the applicant. And that is not, we don't just look at just the referee that is written there. We look at the whole application. That's why if you do your experience, your TER, your training report, your training engineering report, from where you started in the engineering field up to where you are, that helps a lot to dispel where referee is actually used now is become very personal, where he should have used his engineering judgment. Now he's taken on because he doesn't like that person. That person might be overtaking his position when they become professionally registered, and he feels threatened. So I would not like to have a referee at all there in the interviews at all. But I've picked this up where the referee is said the applicant does not know what he's doing, he doesn't know anything, and it gives him he's not competent, and yet we have pushed the person through to professional review. That it also, when you get there with professional review, you looked at the referee and you say, but the referee and what the person's experiences does not tie up. Okay, so does that answer your question, Adrian?
I do find it interesting because it's very interesting what you say, because I would have thought otherwise. I would have thought the referees would be more favorable, but it is interesting as you said. I just think, it was just a thought, because in the interview process, in the heat of a battle, it's always good to have someone just checking in, and it could even be a silent person or a witness to that, and the interviewers can actually question even the referees or a referee, so that clarity can be sought in those questions. Sometimes it's good to have a third party. I don't know, but it was just a thought. But if that is the case, it's like, wow, that the referees could be biased unbiased or whatever. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've also found, what I want to say also, I've also seen the referees just rubber stamping the applicant, and when you do the interview with the applicant, they're not even on the level of a technician, but yet they said they are. So this is actually, a referee does help, but it does also not help. So it's a 50-50, it's a two-edged sword there, and it can be very, very difficult sometimes for us.
Yeah, I think one more comment. Yeah, I understand that is a perspective that ECSA will look at. I suppose your moderators would be a key role then, in just checking that the assessment is fair and all of that type of thing, and all things considered in that process. But otherwise, yeah, thanks for the presentation.
Okay, what I would say about moderators have the power to overrule assessors. And also, as a moderator, you can take that assessment that the assessor wrote and send it back to them and tell them they must rewrite it and make sure that they agree. Because we do get sometimes assessors just rubber stamping, but that has been sorted out. But we do get situations, but it's very rare that we do get that. But the referees, sometimes they are just rubber stamping, or they're very biased towards the applicant, or they don't want the applicant to go ahead. So that's why when you, as an applicant, look for referees that can be positive to you, but it's not always possible. I know that. Okay. Next one. Who's the next one? Johan?
Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me?
People say?
Yes.
Please unmute
Can you?
yourself.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Like I just wanted to ask something about regarding our presentation, where you said like you supposed to take one project and then cover all the outcomes. So I just wanted to ask if is it possible to take on your presentation demonstrate with 2 projects all the outcomes that you have covered. Say for instance, you take one project and then you discuss outcome number 1 up until 3, and then another project you discuss from 4 up until to 11 outcome. So I just want clarity on that, or is it only based on one project that you can discuss?
No, you can use it that way. There's no problem in that. What I'm trying to stop is, I had one applicant, he had 5 projects, and he did all the outcomes 1 to 11 on all of them, each one individually. So the way you've discussed, that's fine. It's no problem on that there.
Okay, no, thank you very much.
Because just remember, your time limit is 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you take an hour, we've got a half an hour to try and assess you, which is very difficult, because we got an hour and a half to assess you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, and then just one thing, please note, it's just for your professional review that you do the 15-minute presentation. The other 2 interviews, you do not do it at all. Okay, who's next, Johan?
Yes.
The table.
Good day.
Good day.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just want to find out the fact that I've worked for the construction industry and not the consulting. Does it have a bearing in terms of, or limitations in terms of me registering as a technologist?
No, it does not. Let me just change your mindset there. You've been in construction, and you're now in a high position, am I correct? Like a site agent or contracts manager or a site engineer.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
All right. Okay, a consultant send you a design to you, and you have to do temporary work, design to do some temporary work there to make an area safe, or you have to do some type of work, or you look at the consultant's drawings and you say, but this is not working out. You redesign, am I correct? And you use your engineering judgment, and you use engineering calculations. So what's the difference between being a consultant and a contractor? Nothing. You discuss that situation in your report. Does it make it clear for you now?
Yes, it does make it clear.
So in other
Thank
words,
you very
the-
much.
Don't think of just one, the consultants are always there. No, when you're in construction, it is nothing different from being like a consultant. Although you do a lot of work, you do a lot of designing, it might look like a lot of parrot work, but it's not. You look at the design of the engineers that given to you, you do on site. When you're building and you say, hey, but this doesn't work. I don't know which field you are in, but you understand what I'm saying. Are you in civil or electrical or mechanical?
I'm in
What field are
civil.
you in? Okay, in civil.
civil.
But even mechanical and electrical, it's the same. You know, you build according to the drawings and the specs, but when you get a drawing, you check it to see if it is correct. You see if all the information is right. You go and check it on site and you see, but this is not working right. Then you come up with your alternative and you look at various alternatives. And you say, okay, I've looked at these alternatives in your report. This is the one I decided, which I presented to the consulting engineers, and they accepted it. That's the way you work. It's standard what we're working. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct.
So you will get your registration if you do it that way. Hopefully it's clarified for you that point there.
All right. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, Zolani.
Okay, who's the next one? Is
Zolani.
Zulani.
Okay,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so my question is that when you already registered as a professional technician, and then now you did your BTech, and then you want to submit for technologist. My question is that your training and experience, where do you start? Because I heard you said you want to know what you would, but you already registered as a professional technician, and then where do you start? Do you start at after you qualified as a BTech, when you're writing your report, or you need to include also the period that you were a technician and then you register as a professional technician? I just want to understand there.
Yes, it's advisable, because why I'm saying that is because when you were doing maybe work as a technician on level E, you might have been working already on not at a well-defined engineering, but at a broadly defined engineering level there. So that's why I'm saying it's easier for us to see as assessors and even as moderators to understand where you came from, gone right through to become your application to become a professional technologist, your experience, that we can see how you progressed. It's better that way. It's easier for you to become registered in the sense that when we do ask about what previously, that you can discuss it. Because if you're doing professional technician, you might have already been working on the level of a broadly defined engineering activity level already, although you were working as a professional technician. Does it make sense to you, Zulani?
No, sir. The reason why is that your application now will be too thick now, because I have like in my case, let me tell you about in my case. I've registered as a professional technician in 2017, and then I've graduated my BTech in 2018, and now I want to submit in 2021, in December 2021. I'm planning to submit my application.
Yes.
So now I've started writing my TER from the day I graduated my BTech. I didn't consider the experience that I have, because I believe ECSA will pick it up that I've registered in 2017.
That's where you're making a mistake. We won't pick it up. We won't pick it up if you don't tell us, because ECSA does not keep that. They do keep that record of a technician becoming up to professional technician, but we don't see it as assessors. We only see the evidence that is given to us, which is from where you said your TER is. If your TER is 20 pages, that's fine. We work through that also.
Okay, but now the challenge will be that on the new application that was released in December by ECSA, is stating that your application, including your attached calculations and drawing, need not be more than 50 pages.
Okay, what you can do there is your TER. You can just give a broad summary up to what you've done, what is important, where you think that is advisable. For instance, where you reckon you will be doing with your professional technician, maybe 3-4 years before that too, if you want to. But they say it's only 50 pages, but if you go to 60 pages, we still allow that. You know, you don't get penalized that.
Oh, okay. Okay, okay, sir.
Yeah, so just remember one thing, do not penalize yourself by thinking of just doing the last 3 years from your BTEC. Go further back. That will help for us to see how you developed.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Johan was the next person. Johan?
Yes, Chris, if I may ask 3 questions, if it's fine by you.
That's fine.
The first one is to latch on to the previous one. I get this quite often, where people say to me, I've got enough experience to register as a technician, but I'm busy with my BTEC. Should I register as a technician first, get my experience as technologist, and then register as a technologist, or do I just go straight through and get my technologist registration and forget about the PR Tech? PR Technique, that's the one question. The second one, I know ECSA had a thing that was called deferment, and the deferment was usually for 6 or 12 months. Does it still stand? Is that still sort of on the cards, or have they done away with that? And then my third question, we had a case where a structural engineer applied for professional registration, but one of the outcomes is the environmental side, and they don't really deal with it. And they were because of that. What is your, as a reviewer, what's your take on that? Thanks, Chris.
Okay. The first one on the BTEC, while he's studying BTEC and he wants to become a professional technologist, although he hasn't got the BTEC, but he's a technician. If he's working on the level of a professional technologist, I mean, working on the level of a technologist on what you call broadly defined engineering activity, he can still apply, but then he goes on the alternative route. He's got his national diploma. If I remember right, it is 6 years with 3 years of level E. He can do that. Nothing stops him from doing that. He can go on the alternative route. Then the deferment of 12 months. Now that deferment, if they do not get it for deferment of 12 months, is usually on, can I just ask you, is it because of not getting his experiential, or did he, what is it, in abeyance, Johan?
Yeah, it's usually when there's certain outcomes that they're not sure about. Site experience is one of them. And
okay.
So, look, you need to go and get the site experience. We're going to take you 12 months and reapply. To that effect.
Okay. No, he must apply within 12 months. You can apply after 12 months. If you read nicely, it's like site experience. You know, it's a way that some of the applicants present themselves. That's what I've picked up a problem with. We usually pick up an applicant that says, yeah, you know, he presents himself, but when you do your judgment, you find he's so near there. But it's the way he's presented himself. It's a minor thing that he has to do. Okay, it's not a minor thing, but it's an outcome that he didn't do. He didn't discuss it. If he's not got site experience, nothing stops him from talking to colleagues to say, how does it work on site? If he can discuss that, if he says, I haven't got site experience, but I've spoke to my colleague and we've discussed this issue, and this is how it works on site, that will still be allowed. It's not that he has to go physically on site. Because I know there's a lot of guys that like to work in the office, they don't like to go to a site. He might just go to visit the site, but he doesn't understand how the interaction is there. That's just what we're looking for. Then a structural engineer for environmental. One thing ECSA wants from everybody is to understand all 11 outcomes. I know structural engineers tend to only have the first 3 outcomes, which is to designing and assessing and then analyzing. It's perfect. When they come to project management and further down, they don't want to talk about that. They must learn to talk about it, like environmental and social. If they haven't had that experience, they talk to a colleague, and you can write it. I've spoken to my colleague about environmental. This is what I understand about environmental. We want to know, are you on the competency level of a technologist, engineer, or as a technician? These are the outcomes. All of them are the same, but it's just where they define them. Like for professional technician, it's a well-defined engineering activity. Technologist is a broadly defined engineering activity, and for engineer is a complex defined engineer. It's a complex engineering activity. Does that answer your question, Johan?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That's very informative. It's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thanks, man.
Okay, pleasure. Eugene?
Hi, Chris. Now, my question was more in line with what Johan and Zulani spoke about, so mine's answered. Thank you very much.
Okay, why did you have a problem?
No, it's just with regards, it's just with regards to registration. Currently, registered technician, finishing BTech this year, wanting to register as a PR technie, but after that, having to wait 3 years again to finally register as a PR tech. It's just, it feels like everything's extending and extending and extending, and
no,
it looks like it takes too long.
You can do the alternative route.
Yeah.
Although you can also specify that you have you got that experience, and you feel you have, after you critically, and you've critically looked at it, and you said, yes, I do have the experience. I'm going to go for it as an alternative route. I know, because I did it myself. Although I was become a professional technician, that's why I'm a professional technician and a technologist. And 6 months later, I applied for technologist, although I was still studying for my BTech.
Okay.
And I went the alternative route. So please, guys, don't think just because you have to have a BTech and wait another 3 years. The BTech will help you in the sense of discussing some of the outcomes. But if you feel you want to do your registration without your BTech while you're still studying, do it. Don't wait.
Will do.
You know that you've got the experience. Okay, Eugene.
Thanks, Chris.
Education there.
Beg your pardon?
When I was on registration, we used to say that a person who had done a diploma and then waited a couple of years before he did his BTech and then applied after his BTech. In other words, he maybe had his 6 years after his diploma, but he only had 1 year after the BTech. We would allow him the 1 year of responsible experience and plus the 6 years. Do you still do that, or do you expect him to have 4 years plus and 6 years after for?
No. What happens is I've had the case where the person did part of his BTech and he had to only do one subject, and then we allowed him through as with his BTech. But with the situation that is discussed now is the people have done the national diploma, and then they went later on, and they went to do, while they're still studying the BTech, they want to apply now, which they can, but then they will have to do it on the alternative route because they haven't got their BTech yet.
I see. People saying?
Hi, Chris.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for the presentation. I hope you will hear me because my connection is unstable. The question
I can hear
that
what
I
you're
have.
saying.
Oh, okay. The question that I have is on BTech subjects. The subjects that I did on BTech, it's 5 of them. They are more of transportation engineering, And then I also did 3, the urban planning, concrete technology, and project management. But my experience, I've been working in the water and sanitation industry, like 99% of it is more of water. And also my report is on sewer. So my concern now is that there's that question where they keep on asking that, where they want you to relate your BTech subjects and experience. So I'm just worried that maybe on the professional interview, are they not maybe going to judge me or criticize me based on that I did transportation subjects, but my experience is on water and sanitation.
Okay.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to just tell you, I just want to say, no, we want to criticize you there. If you show you working on the level of a broadly defined engineering activity on the water and sewerage, although you've done the transportation.
Yeah, transportation, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I've had applicants that have done that, and they've
Okay.
so it won't be. You must just make sure that you are already on that level. So if you say you just say you haven't got those subjects, but my experience that I picked up is on the level of a broadly defined engineering activity.
Also the CPD.
Okay, now I see.
CPD.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So you sound more relaxed now, so don't worry. You will get it when you...
Okay.
All right.
The CPD should pick you up to the level if you don't have the subject.
Yes. Yeah, your training, what you've picked up, how you train, that helps a lot. That we can see there, the IPD. What courses did you do? How did you go about it? What did you do? And also in outcome 11, you can actually say what you actually learned yourself there. You know, you say you learned journals, you read documents, you attended various courses, and that will show there. Okay, Tandi? Tender?
Yes, sir.
Tanda? Yes.
Yes, sir. I just want to ask on regard to the experiential interview, if maybe I want to register as a PR technologist, do you guys require the project management part, or is only the design and the writing of reports and so forth?
Okay. If you remember what I said there, if you written your TER, your training engineering report, and your engineering report, and your referee, and all that, your document, we get that whole packet, we go through. And when we say in your engineering report, say no, outcome 1, number 5, number 8 and 9, I mean number 8, 9 and 10 is not there. So it's not just that. What happens is the assessors say these are the outcomes that were not met in your engineering report, which is a written document, which is basically we assess the documents, and the moderator will look at it also and he will agree, and we will call you for an experiential interview to say these are the outcomes that was not clearly defined in your report. Please, can you tell us? And we will ask you questions on those, only on those outcomes. So it's not just on design, it's on certain outcomes that was not clearly written in your engineering report. Does that help? Do you understand now?
It's understandable.
Because only on your professional review, we do all 11 outcomes. So if your engineering report is well written and well presented, you can go from there without doing an experiential interview. You go directly to professional review.
But if you do design, surely you do project management in the process of design. You design projects, yes. You manage that.
Yeah. Okay. Does it help you, Tando, to understand what's going on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Eugene?
Chris, you said earlier that you did PR Techni, and then after that you registered PR Tech 6 months. Do you
I
think
applied 6 months later,
Yeah.
and the person who actually interviewed me was Johan de Koker with Des Lange many
Okay,
years
great.
ago.
And we and we
What I
let me tell you.
what I wanted to know is if you feel that your experience is on a level to be able to register for PR Tech, do you still think it's advisable to first do PR Techni and then PR Tech, or just go straight to PR Tech?
Go straight.
Okay,
Go straight.
thanks very much.
If you are confident enough to do it and you are working on that level, you go straight out for it. But please look at RO2, STAPE, PEPT, PCE, and PN at the back of the Annexure A, where it says your experience that is required. How many years of experience for your certain qualifications and how many years you have to be on level E responsible. So look at that document there at the back. Okay.
I will do. Thanks. Can I ask you a quick another one quickly?
Yes, you can ask anyone.
On your registration for professional engineering technician, on the point 2, it's implications of registration. It says there that as she is required to accept legal responsibility for the soundness of the work executed and thereby affording protection to the public. Does that mean even if you register as a professional technician, that you have to have liability insurance? And if you need liability insurance, against what type of work or scope?
Okay. Technicians usually have, sometimes they do have problems getting liability insurance, but they do. There are companies that do it, insurance companies, but you have to define your scope of work that you have to be, what you're doing, so that the insurers can assess the, what you call the risk.
Okay.
For you. So you have to do that. So you can do it. I know of technicians that are running their own businesses that have got PI insurances.
Yeah, that's exactly
for their work.
That's exactly
So
what I'm
you have
asking.
to-
Yeah.
So you have to actually specify exactly, correctly to the insurers, your broker, what type of work you're doing. And you have to stick to that type of work that you said that you're going to do. Don't go out of your scope of work, because then it gets a bit hairy and sticky. It's the same with professional technologists. Like I'm doing civil engineering. I can't go and do electrical. It won't fall in that scope of work. I can't go and do mechanical. That's out of my scope of work and my training. I will
100%.
not do structures. I do infrastructure.
I understand. Thanks.
Okay, so just be careful. All right, thanks. Any other questions? Okay. Johan?
Chris,
Yeah.
is it fair for me to ask you what type of questions do you ask in interviews?
There's no standard set of questions. We base it on the engineering report, on the presentation, and the experience report, and the whole package document. So there is no set questions at all.
So what you'd say is that you look at the individual and then you look at his application, and on the basis of that, you ask questions to clarify and to for him to explain where you didn't understand correctly, maybe.
Yeah, that's it. It is each set of questions are always basically individual. It's nothing is standard there, because we're trying to move away from people trying to make it a rubber stamp. We are looking for the competency of the applicant. Maybe you get an applicant that is very good in communication. You pick it up. You're not going to go and ask him about communication. If you see an applicant is very passionate about his designing and a collection of information, he does well in that, you won't dwell much on that. You will pick it up. But when it comes to, for instance, project management, you try, you get him to answer questions he might not answer. You do ask him more questions, see if he can recover, and try and help the applicant. We're not there to just criticize everybody. We are there to peer reviews. Like I tell all the applicants that come for the interview and professional review, we're going to ask you questions. We're going to get, some of them might be difficult, but it's like you're sitting in lunchtime or tea time and you're talking to your colleagues about a design that you picked up, a problem on site you've picked up. You explain to them in technical terms and they ask you questions. How did you solve this? How did this? Why did you do this? That's what the professional review is, to see your level of competency, not to break you down, not to make you scared. That's why I say, when you go in as if you're talking to your colleagues in technical terms. Do not talk in layman terms there. Okay, Johan?
Yeah, just a quick one to latch onto what Johan de Koker was saying. How important is your knowledge of the industry? Understanding ECSA as a council, those questions around SAFSEC, what's the role of SAFSEC? How important are those kind of softer or industry-related questions in the interview?
We do sometimes ask if they know about voluntary associations, but ECSA is the main, council that we emphasize on, because they've got the code of conduct, they've got the rules of conduct that the engineers, technologists, technicians must know. Those are important.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Johan?
I don't have any more questions. I'm looking to see who else has a question, wants to put his hand up. Surely, guys, please do. This is your chance to ask a question. Don't be shy. There's no stupid questions. Dr. Sina? Unmute.
Dr. Sina? Dr. Sina, you can ask.
No, I am asking for PR tech or PR technician, applicant needs 3 referees. For PRN, then it's 2 referees. But sometimes it happens to get the applicant 3 referee is very difficult, because the referee must be professional registered, and it's very, very difficult. So my question is, how many years should be known to the candidate, to the referees? 1 year, 6 months?
We like to see what they say is 3 years, but sometimes you don't get that. You get maybe 18 months, you get 2 years, but that, like I've said before, your referee is one of the components for the application. It's not an overruling item on the application, because what happens is you might get 3, if you get a referee that is not registered, then for technician, technologist, you have to put in a further referee. So you have to have 4 referees there. And basically that's not your referees are there to give us a guideline. But as I explained earlier, a lot of the referees are becoming biased towards the applicant because he might have left or he might be threatening their position. So like I explained to Adrian, so it's not an overruling factor. It's a guideline for us to see. And then we take into the consideration the other, your training engineering report, your TER, and then we also look at your engineering report. That gives us the overall, and also to see what courses that you did, what training you underwent, what is your philosophy. These are a lot of the things that get taken into account. So it's not just one thing that gets taken into account.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Okay.
My second not question but suggestion. My
Yeah.
experience, even I am conducting interview tomorrow for professional. What happens, because there are 3 reviewers for professional and none of them are in the area of the applicant. I am conducting interview all for structure, and my experience is basically water and sanitation. So I have decided that I'll ask general questions like, why do you want to register with the ECSA? What is the ECSA main role? What is the condition of contract? Things like this. Because ECSA does mistake in spite of our several requests. There's at least there should be one member in the specialized area. But tomorrow I have just seen we all are 3 structure except me.
Yeah. You see what I do is basically maybe they allow the other 2, for instance, you're not in structures and they in structures, but you're good in, for instance, in project management or the other fields there. They bring that in to get the balance out. But strictly speaking, we know about certain fields, we know those areas of our expertise, but we also know about the other fields, we know knowledge of that. And then we also ask there. I do get it that sometimes you get into situations there that I find that some of the guys that with me, they're not very on the interviews, but then you have to carry each other. That's the way I see it. And then I've always done this. And you pick it up when the applicant talks to you. You might pick up something that he says and you can question him about that. That's the way I work. I listen to what they say and then I ask them a question. They must clarify certain points for me of their statements. Okay, thanks. Dieter Borgo?
Okay, thank you, Ndate. My question also is relating to referees. Like I said earlier, I work for a construction company, and generally you find that there are no registered people. The owner my owner was a quantity surveyor. So I'm struggling to get the referees to an extent that now I've resorted to go for the referees that were from the engineer side in the project. But the challenge with that is some of the referees were not registered at that time. They only got registered a year or so later. Can I still use them as referees? Or
Yes, you can. You can. Because remember, they know you when you started and they understand. So it's no problem. You can use them. If you're using a person that is unregistered, remember you have to have then 4 referees in total. Okay. If like your supervisor is unregistered, you can use him as your supervisor and then you get another 3 referees that are registered.
Now, Chris, the guy who's the quantity surveyor, if he's registered as a quantity surveyor, can he act as a referee for this person?
Yes, he can. He can just say he's a quantity surveyor and he says the person did. Because a referee is somebody who goes through to the person to see if they are qualified. It is well defined in that referee report where they have to give their comments.
Okay, thanks. Joshua?
Just on that referee matter there, I just recently submitted my ECSA registration forms, but one of my referees, he was SAC PMP registered, right? And he's a civil technician. However, I believe he's been operating on the level of a technologist or an engineer for quite some time. And he's basically, we used to work under a contractor. Though when I did submit the referee form from this guy, I was told that it must be ECSA registered individuals, 3 ECSA registered individuals. Now the issue was that the contractor company that I worked for, they don't have ECSA registered guys. They've got SAC PMP guys. So it was a kind of a difficult thing. So I had to ask my consulting company to basically stand in there just so that I could get the third referee to be ECSA registered as well, you know. So there's a bit of a thing there when it comes to the referees when you submit them to the ECSA registration officers.
Yeah, basically what happens is if it's not ECSA registered, you can put in 3 ECSA, then you have to get a 4th referee put in there. That's all. Okay. It's like somebody is not, your supervisor is not registered at all, but it's you as your supervisor and he understands it and he completes the form. So you get a 3rd person to register there. You ask a colleague if you read that, what is written in the document there.
Yeah, no, 100%. Just, it's difficult now when, of course, now I'm asking somebody else and I haven't actually worked directly under them, So when they are writing the referee report, obviously we don't see it, but it's very difficult to get an idea of the type of reference you're going to get from the referee when you worked under this one guy and outstanding. So
yeah, but another thing, can I just ask you one thing there, Joshua? You worked with different clients, am I correct? And they also registered by ECSA. They are your colleagues. They can also write their client and they can fill it in. You can use them also as your referee. It's not just one person. You can use your supervisor or your mentor, and then you can use colleagues, 3 different colleagues, or you can use one colleague and you can use a client. There's nothing wrong with that, who is registered. So don't just stick with your company, look wider out there too.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So Chris,
any other questions?
You can't find any registered referees. If you're working for a small company and you want to register, you think you're working on the right level, and there's nobody that you know that is registered that can sign for you.
Okay, your supervisor or your mentor or the employer is most probably not registered, and you can, as I said, you can go and look for clients who are registered that you work with, because really you would get somebody that you worked with there who is registered. You can ask them to say, be a referee, which a lot of them will do that. I've picked this up in a lot of the applications. Maybe the person is not they work for, their supervisor or their mentor, or not their mentor, their employer is not registered. They use him or her, and then they go for 3 different clients and colleagues that they work with that are registered, which is correct. So then you only have to have 4 then.
Chris,
Okay,
I have
Dr.
one
Sina?
question.
Yeah.
Applicant fill the form disability, whether they are disabled or not. You know it, yeah.
Yes.
So if he or she is disabled, do you think they will get any preference in registration?
No, it's just the normal same. Only thing that will be then, if they are, for instance, deaf, then they will be accommodated for. If they've got a disability of walking, nowadays we do virtual interviews now. We do it with what you call Microsoft Meeting, so that won't be a problem. If they got blind, they will still be able to hear. They do get, the disability gets taken into account and it does get accommodated for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, we still have most of the people in the meeting. I was thinking that a lot of people would have left after 2 o'clock because lunch is over. But if there's if there's no more questions, then I'm going to close, because we've had a good session. There's Livuwani. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Yes.
Thanks very much for your intervention for assisting us to be able to register. So my problem is I'm one of the clients and I have been registered for, I'm still a candidate, professional candidate and a professor. I've got a BTech.
Hello.
So I graduated it on 2019. So I wanted to register as a technologist. So my issue is the exposure that I am getting with the client. According to the to ECSA, I think it doesn't qualify those 11 outcomes, all of them. Then is it possible for me if I know the consultant, if I know or the contractor, go and join them at my spare time and be able to complete that report? So can it be able to ask?
Can you just, because I lost a bit of my connection just cut off. Do I understand you're working for construction or what?
I'm working for public servants, public works. So
Okay,
the
public
exposure,
works.
yes,
Hmm.
the exposure
Yes.
that I'm getting there, I think is not that enough for me to be able to register as a technologist. So I was asking, is it possible for me if I know the consultant or the contractor that I can go and join maybe at the weekends or anytime if I'm free, then I prepare the report and use them as a referee, or you still want my supervisor to be the one as a referee?
Okay, your supervisor, and then you can choose any other person there too, like your clients or your colleagues that you can use there. But what are you? What type of work are you? A manager there in public works?
No, I'm not a manager, civil candidate, civil technician.
Okay. So if
And I've
you
been
see,
working.
how many years, if I might, how many years have you been working?
I've been working since 2010.
And they got no program to teach you. Okay. So there's no problem in that. What you can do is you can ask for the consultants, can you go in and see how they go about designing in your field? What do you do? Water, sewage, stormwater, or roads?
With public works, we do sewer, water, and
so infrastructure, you're doing infrastructure.
Yes.
Okay. The consultants that you work who send their designs to you, do you look at their designs and approve it, or don't you get involved in that at all?
We do look at them, but now they've got some projects which they are in-house.
Okay.
We must be the one designing first. Then they only appoint the contractor on site.
Okay, so you do the designing yourself now.
Yes, then they appoint the contractor on site. We act as a consultant.
Okay, are you doing any designing yourself? That's what I'm trying to determine.
Yes, just a bit, but I started now. I don't have that much exposure.
Okay. So how long do you think you're going to take? 6 months to get that exposure?
Yeah, for maybe 6 months or 7 months, but I'm only using AutoCAD.
And you're not doing physical designs, calculations and that?
Only on sewer. Only
Okay.
on sewer if they...
All right. Let me tell you, if you're doing on water, what is your preparations that you have to look at? How do you prepare to do your water design before you do it in EPANET or WaterMate or in Civil 3D design? What else do you have to put in there? That you have to look at. Sewer, you do your rough design and then you do your final design. Am I correct? So that is designing. You collect information. Where do you get it? That's what you look at there. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
It's not just drawing lines on the computer and thinking at everything there. You collect information to do that.
Yes, it's true.
You prepare for that, which is true. Okay. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Can you also send out the recording after when you are done?
Yes, Johan will be sending it out to everybody. Okay.
That's fine. No, thanks very much.
Thanks. It's a pleasure. Okay, Jean?
Chris, I just wanted to know, is it possible to speak to you guys, not in a format like this? Let's say, will you give out your email addresses or something like that if we have other questions?
Yes, you can send it to Johan and then he will forward it to me. That's it. Okay. Any other further questions? Johan?
I'm just waiting to see if someone else wants to come up with a question. But if there's no more questions, I would like to close the meeting. We will be having another one in 2 weeks' time, I think. Chris, what will we be talking about?
I think what I picked up a lot here is the guys are very concerned about the referees. But I'll be most probably just talking shortly on the referees for technologists, but we can touch on technicians and also for what's called professional engineers. But what I want to talk about is how the people must choose their referee and make sure, because I think a lot of the referees should actually attend that one day, because they must start looking at how they must fill in that form, because it's not just the rubber stamp, and they must not be biased towards the applicant, or criticize his character, which got nothing to do. It is basically what has to be done, is to see, are they at the level of the experience that they have to be.
I
see Sam's got his hand up there.
Sam, unmute yourself.
Good afternoon to everyone. My question is not a question, it's just that can the speaker repeat the part about where we can get the rest of the recording, because I only got into the recording halfway through.
You will see on the chat. On the chat there is the Johan van Skalkwyk put the link up for where you can go for the recording. We will put it up there soon.
Okay, Sam.
I will also put the link for the next meeting in 2 weeks' time. I will put it on the groups where I always put it on. I try and put it on LinkedIn to refer you to the chat groups, the iPad chat groups, where we put the link for the iPad forums, these webinars, so it will be available.
Mama, what's the time for me?
Okay. I think we can close off now, Johan. I just want to see both Johan Junior and Senior, if it's possible, just for 5 minutes after.
Perfect.
Okay. Johan?
Yeah, I'm just putting the phone number on. I was trying to put that on.
Okay.
Where is this? In any case, the phone number to ask, it will be on LinkedIn. You will find it there. If you look at the iPad group, you'll find some posts there with the phone number on. Thanks. Good.
I think there's no more questions. Thanks a lot.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you very much.
Participation.
Okay.
Adrian. And
yeah, thanks very much. And it was great. Maybe you can chat about the Cuban engineers next time.
let's not.
Well, let's not go there, please. So that we'll be talking about till the next year, and we still won't have an answer.
I'm going to be a referee for them.
Okay. So I think it's closed now. The guys can sign off. It's just Johan and both Johans I would like to see quickly.
I'll put the phone number on again for whoever wants to look at it quickly and write it down. Leave messages there for me. I'll pick it up. I see we guys are moving out. Thanks everybody, and
thanks for everybody attending.